more people in, and then we will get started. Well, it's 11:31. And we do like to start on time, even though now it's a minute late. But we just want to say thank you so much for joining us. We are very excited about the presentation today. And this is, just so you know where you are, this is the Parent Leadership Team Power Hour. And our topic today is keeping children safe online. So some of you are joining us, participated in our last parent leadership team meeting, and we shared a video which was extremely impactful. I am going to tell you that we are going to show that video again today, but we think it's well worth seeing. And I've seen it at least 4 times, and I am impacted in a new way each time I see it. I also want to tell you that, well, I'm Ginny Gleason, and Javon Blum, wave over there. She's my counterpart. We work together with the Parent Leadership Team meeting, as well as providing family engagement presentations to anybody who's interested. So I'm going to share my screen, and then we will get into our show, so to speak. Can you see my screen, Javon?
Yes, and just a little disclaimer, we have some internet outage issues up here where we are, so our internet might be a little bit unstable, but we've got a backup plan just in case.
Yes. And we want to also acknowledge that this presentation is being sponsored by Brevard Public Schools, the Child Abuse Prevention Task Force, and Eckerd Connects. So we truly appreciate everyone who has supported this event and gotten the word out for us. We also want to tell you and just kind of draw your attention to our disclaimer at the bottom of the screen. This is information. We are not experts in this area, so we have invited experts to be a part of our presentation today. And there is a piece where there's some product that is shared, but we're not trying to endorse anything. We're just trying to provide very important information. So I, at this point, would like to turn it over to Roy Funes. He is a prevention specialist with Eckerd Connects, and we consider as one of our experts on internet safety, and he so kindly agreed to participate today. So without further ado, Roy, I will turn it over to you. And if you would like to share your video, I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm glad you are here, and to all the parents and grandparents and everybody for this topic, everyone please take a deep breath, okay? Because what we're going to talk about and some of the things that you're not going to know about, just understand that just being here for this presentation is you trying to educate yourself, but also trying to get your teen or your children going down the right path. So I will go ahead and start the video.
Roy, the sound isn't working.
Oh, let me start over, sorry.
I never thought I would be chasing child predators. It was 2 years ago when our team intercepted conversations between a 12-year-old girl and a 40-year-old pedophile. He wasn't just talking to her, he was abusing her, coercing her, collecting images and videos, and no one in her life, her parents, sixth grade teacher, or friends, knew what was happening. I have a sixth grader of my own. I have 3 kids, actually, but you don't have to be a parent to be devastated by this. I work for a tech company that uses artificial intelligence to detect issues like grooming and sexual predation, and this is something we see constantly. These abuses are occurring quietly and mostly go unreported, and we want parents to know exactly what we know about what happens online. So we made a plan.
A man has been arrested for allegedly raping a 15-year-old that he met over Snapchat.
Instagram has become the #1 social
TikTok
media
is at
site.
the top of the free download
We've also seen
chart.
firsthand the predatory symbiotic relationship that exists between Instagram and Snapchat.
We would create a fictitious 15-year-old girl, complete with a believable social media identity, put her online, and document how long it would take for a predator to approach her. But creating a person out of thin air is complicated. We did photos, but we knew we couldn't use an actual teenager. It would have to be someone on our team. I'm 37, but our graphic designers assured me that with the wonders of photo manipulation, they could magically make me look over 2 decades younger. Brought clothes and accessories, studied body language and facial expressions, methodically covered and edited signs of aging, wrinkles, weight shifts, and stretch marks. Meanwhile, we coordinated with federal, state, and local law enforcement. Then we built a story around her, a history, a family, a social circle. Libby was born in 2004 and is a sophomore who recently moved to Indiana. We created multiple online accounts for Libby, and posted typical teen content. We even created virtual friends for Libby who would comment on her posts. With everything in place, we would launch the project, give it a few months, and see if anyone would buy it. So we hit the button, and Libby went live. Within the first hour of posting on Libby's accounts, 7 adult men contacted her. By the end of 9 days, that number was 92. The conversations ranged in severity from making sexual comments to sharing and requesting explicit photos and videos to manipulation and threats. The onslaught was so massive, it took 5 of us playing Libby full time to keep up. We decided to move off-site where we could scale up the operation and gather as much information and evidence as possible. Since Libby is 15, men might try to falsely justify their actions towards her because of her proximity to adulthood. Would parents question, where's the bar? Would a 13-year-old face the same barrage of predators? A 12-year-old? How young could it possibly go? The graphics team transformed me into 11-year-old Bailey. Bailey is afraid of the dark. She hasn't had her first crush yet. She's still prepubescent. A parent might assume Bailey would be insulated from any sort of predatory attack. We launched our 11-year-old persona online.
444 and go. One like from a guy whose profile photo is a penis. So let's say
1 minute and 7 seconds. We have a message request.
although this sorry, 2 more requests just came in. How much time? 1 minute and 40 seconds?
Yeah. How old are you? You go to the profile, you know that that is a child. It also says in the profile that the child is in 6th grade.
Another one.
It's just lighting up, like the inbox is just boom, 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 boom.
An incoming video call in less than 5 minutes.
I can't see you. Don't be shy.
They all say don't be shy.
Few parents know just how dangerous these platforms are for so many kids. So we brought some on site so they could see for themselves. 11-year-old Bailey's persona was approached with an even more disturbing level of manipulation and requests. While the majority of the abuse happened from a distance, our child profiles also receive requests to meet up in person, especially our 15-year-old persona. 28-year-old Keith was relentless. Like the others, he took no issue with Libby's age. He shared explicit videos of himself. He treated the virginity of an underage girl as a prize to be stolen. It was a tough decision, but if Keith wanted to meet Libby in person, we would let him. We synced up with our law enforcement contacts, and within 24 hours, we were on the ground and ready to meet. We already had evidence of what he had done online, but was he willing to carry things out in real life? We knew 37-year-old me attempting to pass for 15-year-old Libby would be a challenge. But I would wear a hat, a lot of makeup, and a big sweatshirt and see if he showed up.
Oh, hi. Good. How are you? Nice to meet you too.
How you doing?
Good.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Wait, so do you want to go for a walk first?
Oh, why you not trying to rush this?
What was that?
Why you not trying to rush this?
I don't know. I'm a little nervous.
Let's go. That's something new.
I've never done anything like this before, so I'm a little nervous. Yeah. Okay. Have you ever? Are you okay with me being 15? Are you hungry?
Cyber tips coming in from the National Center for Missing and Exploited.
Mark turns over these potential child predators to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Using the app has led to arrests like this one in Florida last year.
The brutal reality is that a predator doesn't have to be in the same room, building, or even country to abuse a child. Libby and Bailey may not be real, but they represent countless children who are being sexually and psychologically abused, both online and in real life. I think about how I would have felt as a young, impressionable child. I would have kept the abuses to myself for fear of being shamed and blamed. I would have suffered with it secretly and quietly.
Hi, Mama. Hi, did you have a good day? Yeah. Mama? Yeah. I was wondering, so in 2 more days you're gonna come back? That's right. Okay. I love you. I love you too.
Our work has led to numerous arrests, but it's a drop in the bucket. Our work, nor the work of law enforcement or legislation, will ever be able to protect children as well as engaged parents and guardians can. When asked, my advice for parents is to talk to your kids early and often. Know what apps they're using and with whom they're communicating. When facing crisis, kids need a soft place to land. Make sure they know they can come to you for help.
All right, I know that was difficult to watch, but like I said before, thank you for being here. This is a tough topic to talk about, but it is also something that is needed, and also to educate yourself and also to keep our children safe. So I actually reached out to Bark, and I actually got one of their kind of social media experts, and she actually sent us a video for parents. So I'm going to go ahead and start that video now.
Hi, my name is Katie. I'm a regional sales manager. Hi,
My name is Katie McPherson. I'm a regional sales manager for Bark for Schools. I also function as a youth mental health advocate in the Phoenix, Arizona metro area. Today is really about how we can become digitally led schools and families instead of allowing technology to lead us. In my personal and professional experience, a lot of families are allowing technology to lead their households, as well as wreak havoc on their relationships with their students. Today is about talking about what kind of landing page we want to end on and the desired outcome to be mentors for our digital students. I think for parents, there are a couple of different roles you can play as a parent in the digital age. You can be a restrictor, an enabler, or a mentor. If I were to choose out of all three of those, I would definitely choose being a mentor. There's some tandem parent-child goals that I always have when I'm giving these types of presentations. One is to identify what type of screen time you're allowing your child to have. I identify these as digital candy, such as social media and video game platforms, as well as digital vegetables. So anything the school is sending home that's academic in nature is what we call digital vegetables. Anything that your child's using for a video game or social media is called digital candy. We really want students to be literate in the use of media and technology. In order to do that, we have to guide them and again, be a mentor. My goal for children is to be self-governed on the internet and dignified by the age of 18. They need to be creators of a responsible digital footprint, and the only way they can do that is with our help. There's a great new documentary out that Bark actually was a part of called Childhood 2.0. For today's purposes, I'm just going to show you a few seconds of the trailer, but you can find Childhood 2.0 on YouTube for free, and I would highly recommend watching it by yourself. And if you have older children, once you've viewed it by yourself, to also participate in viewing it with them. I would recommend it for ages 14 and up, 12 to 13 if you're very open about explicit categories. For example, pornography, sexually explicit content, cyberbullying, predation, and grooming are all part of the movie, as well as the topic of suicide.
A long time ago, families were in communities. They were local, they were small.
I was born in the very depths of the Great Depression. I was put to work carrying wood, carrying water. I knew how to shell peas. I knew how to break beans. We still didn't have electricity.
Two Instagram accounts.
I use Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok.
TikTok and Fortnite. I can just scroll for hours on end, 11 hours a day.
8, 9.
It's actually been a way that we can keep track of them out there in the real world where things really are scary.
The lives of kids were sort of changing slowly for a while. And then all of a sudden, most kids were able to get on social media, and that's when everything skyrocketed.
Rates at which they're experiencing problems continues to increase.
We also know that the teen suicide rate increased 56%.
Last year alone, we received over 18 million reports of international and domestic online child sexual abuse.
We have traded a false sense of safety and security for actually putting our kids in riskier situations. I call it the race to the bottom of the great sentence.
So that's just a few moments of the trailer. I'd highly advise also looking at protectyoungeyes.com. It's another great resource. Chris McKenna, who was just shown in the piece there, is a great resource, protectyoungeyes.com. And again, the documentary can be viewed on YouTube for free, Childhood 2.0. There's also a discussion guide that goes along with the movie, childhood2.0movie.com. One of the things, as I mentioned, that I talk to schools and parents about is the difference between digital candy and digital vegetables. You can see below there are two different kinds of brains, one that's using digital vegetables and one that is using digital candy. You can see on the lower brain scan the loss of blood flow and probably a body that's been sitting around for a few hours playing a video game and or scrolling on social media. In the top brain, you can see good blood flow, verbal emotive centers are probably firing, and good academic content is being delivered to the brain. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see dopamine, cortisol, oxytocin, and serotonin are impacted by uses of screens. Now, I'll point out that not all YouTube is created equal. So sometimes parents will say, my child's been on YouTube for too long. And it just depends on what they're doing on YouTube. There is actually a lot of redeeming quality on YouTube. And so when we look at dopamine and cortisol, we're looking at, is the central nervous system being amped up by what they're watching? And or is cortisol, which is the stress hormone, being released in the brain based on what they're seeing, what they're viewing, what they're scrolling about. So a fight with a friend is definitely going to have some cortisol being secreted. Serotonin is our mood regulation hormone. And so we really want to make sure that we are limiting use of digital candy and that we recognize that the video game industry really does not care about kids. And so what we know to be true about video games is your child's brain is being shoved as far down in the brainstem as possible. And so if you have a video gamer at home, I'd suggest having them drink water and move their bodies once they get off the video game. In addition, I think it's important to point out that brains are underdeveloped. 22 to 24 for girls is the age that brains develop typically, and tracking for boys is 28 to 30. And so you're going to see a lot of impulsive decision making, sort of off the handle comments. Profanity is going to be something they're going to probably use on text and direct messages, and a lot of decisions, as I said, that are kind of half-baked. And so if we're handing over this medium to them, we have to know what we're handing over, and that is a medium and access to the outside world for a very underdeveloped brain to explore. And if we're not supervising and monitoring, that could be sort of a dangerous situation. In addition, I think it's important to point out that human beings have two choices with pain: to transmit pain or to transform pain. And so when we look at typical scenarios where something like this happens, and this is the #1 softball team in America, they were mad at the other team, it got uploaded to Snapchat, it also then went viral and landed on the front page of the USA Today. So I feel really deeply for these kids that we've kind of set them up for failure. We haven't given them much training in that, we say, don't be stupid, don't burn your brain out, things like that. But we haven't really given them any ongoing pervasive training. And we definitely have not been talking to them on a weekly, monthly basis about how to create a digital footprint. We're living in quite the cancel culture, as you know, where people can post something 4 years ago and then somebody like an employer or college admissions officer goes back and tries to find out what it was about. And so I think it's important to constantly be talking to students about how they're doing and what they're posting. Additionally, I'm going to go back. If you're a school person or have a child in a school, when they make a digital mistake, I think it's so important to make sure that they are restored, to make sure that they know they're coming back into the school on a clean slate. We've unfortunately had students take their lives over situations like this in front of you because they didn't realize that even though they were in trouble, it was going to be okay after the fact. And so again, those impulsive brains sometimes make drastic decisions. Additionally, I think it's important to look at students from a public health model approach. In the first column, we have probably 80 to 85% of most student populations are doing pretty well. Then we have the other categories of distress and crisis. And our goal would be to have students move from well-being into a little bit of good stress and back to well-being. What we have happening in America is kids sitting in distress and then moving into crisis. And unfortunately, there's too many students doing that. And once they hit crisis, it's very difficult, as Roy will probably point out to you, how to backpedal out of that crisis. And so I think it's important that if you have a student, if you know a student, if you know a child who's struggling, that you get them professional help or school help or both as soon as possible. Because as I said, it's very difficult to get a student from crisis back to well-being, knowing that many county resources are limited, overwhelmed system, overtaxed, and getting into a provider is sometimes difficult. This is a typical statement post from a high school student talking about life never works out for me, I swear. Every time I get my hopes up, they get crushed shortly after. Blah, 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 sucks. I think it's important that we recognize that language has meaning, and that when students are posting things or stating things that they mean them, and that we need to investigate further. We unfortunately had a student, and his tweets are listed here, that took his life. And prior to taking his life, he had been tweeting out to the whole world, this is what's going on with me. So you'll see the tweet that says, when a girl asks to be just friends, it's basically telling you to F off. Life has fallen apart in front of my own eyes, and it's all my fault. I want you to look at how many students, 390 favorited that, 279 retweeted. So those weren't friends making fun of him. Those were friends saying, yeah, man, I relate to you. What we haven't done a great job of is to really train students what to look for when someone's in crisis. There's a difference, so to speak, if I go back to that tweet. If there was just one tweet, like when a girl asks to be just friends, it's basically telling you to F off, that's one thing. But over a series of days, he kept tweeting and tweeting and tweeting that he wasn't doing well. And students see that well before adults do. And so we need to train our students that if you see somebody who seems like he's escalating, seems like there's a frequent uptick in negative self-talk, that we really get in front of that by reporting. And in order to report, we have to have trusted adults taking those reports. And so relationships with our students at the school level are really, really important. You'll notice that his last tweet to the world was help. I'm not sure how much else the student could say without really just going on a live video and screaming for help. And so it's, again, important for adults to be monitoring and supervising their child's digital footprint, meaning laptops, Chromebooks, iPads, video game platforms, phones, iPods, etc. Everything you want to know is on your child's device. There's no mystery to the world. When we look at youth mental health, we're actually in sort of a national epidemic. I'm sure some of you know that, but for those of you that didn't, sleep is extremely important. Most of our 9th through 12th grade students, each hour of lost rest was associated with a 38% increase in the risk of feeling sad or hopeless, and a 58% increase in suicide attempts. And so I think we really need to pay attention to sleep and making sure that devices are out of bedrooms and bathrooms, especially overnight. Nothing good happens after 9 o'clock on a device. And so parents taking devices and putting them on a central charging station in their bedroom is the way that we get good sleep from our students. Additionally, I get a lot of parent phone calls about, my student is addicted to this. I don't know what to do. My first question is, how much nature are they getting? How much movement are they getting? How much physical touch are they getting? And how much connection are they making? These things, and I added one, it says 3 things we all need to be healthy. I added the physical touch part because I think especially after COVID, we really need to look at the tenets of early childhood development and adolescent development. And those are moving bodies, being outside and connecting, in addition to having physical touch as well. Lastly, I work for BARC for schools. BARC for schools basically surveils and monitors school issued devices. So anything in the G Drive, the Google Drive or Microsoft Office suite. So email, Google Chat, Google Hangout, Excel spreadsheets, as well as Google Docs. And so sometimes students forget that those things are monitored and will be talking to each other on there. We flag in many different categories: alcohol and drugs, cyberbullying, predation, self-harm, suicidal ideation, suicide attempt, anorexia and bulimia, sexting, weapons, violence against self or others. And so basically on a school issued device, we are monitoring with artificial intelligence any sort of contextual keywords that would flag us that a student isn't doing well. On the family side of things, we have 2 products. We have BARC Junior, which is great for younger kids. It basically manages screen time and filters websites, as well as allows parents location check-ins. On the BARC Premium side, we can manage screen time, filter websites, and get those check-ins, as well as monitor text messages, emails, and 30 plus apps of social media platforms. We're also scanning for dangers like cyberbullying, online predators, and suicidal ideation. So the difference between the two is Bark Junior, if you are a client of Bark as Bark for Schools, is free. If you are not a client, it's $9.99. And the Bark Premium product is $14.99 for families to subscribe to. So some of this is on the school side of the house and some of it is on the family side of the house. So families can opt in to either of these products. If you list Katie20 as the promo code when you sign up, you'll get 20% off. That's KATEY 20, and you can get 20% off of your subscription. So those are two ways that families and adults, trusted adults and caregivers, can monitor and supervise the private social media and video game platforms of their students. And then on the school side, we do that for schools for free, and there's no hidden agenda there. It's always going to be for free because we are a mission-based company. And so lastly, if you're looking for me, I'm at Katie McPherson. If you hover over this QR code with your camera open, it will open my website and you can find resources, books, family screen time contracts, recommendations, and all of the digital protection mechanisms that I love. And so I just want to thank you today for having me. Appreciate your commitment to student safety, and really please at any time reach out. And I hope that Roy will bring me back so we can do a proper presentation and open Q&A.
All right, can everyone hear me? I know that's a lot to take in as well, but let's keep going with the topic and actually what we're going to talk about. So as Katie said, and also in the video, you saw that it took 5 people to be able to keep up with the content and messages of everything that was happening in that video. And think of it as a teenager. That's what we're going to do now, is kind of look at their perspective and see, put ourselves in their shoes. So as a typical teenager, as of right now, in the past, there's always been a gatekeeper. There would always be somebody to kind of stop you from talking on the phone or even from going out with friends. I would have to get a ride from my dad to be able to go. But now it's kind of that easy connection, easy access, where I just send a direct message to somebody, say, hey, meet me at the ball. I call an Uber and I can just get there without a doubt, without no problem. I can pay online. Everything is online. So also with that, I want you guys to really understand that the gatekeeper is gone. I remember even when I was young, when I used to, I liked a girl, I had to call on the phone and I had to ask to speak to her. And I still remember till this day when the dad was like, I have a shotgun and a shovel. Don't say anything bad to my daughter. I still remember that to this day. And here's what you have to understand: that gatekeeper's gone. Anyone can say anything to anyone, and that's kind of their normal. So now we have to take ourselves and everything that we knew and throw it out the window, throw it out, because it's their world now. It's their world and what they have to keep up with and everything that they have to do to be popular and things of that nature. I just want you guys to really think about what exactly they have to do. So when there was no social media, you couldn't compare yourself with celebrities or your friends down the street. Now you're able to compare yourself to everyone and anyone. So celebrities, you see all their cars, you see all their houses, you see everything they have, all their money, but also Johnny down the street, you can also see everything that he's doing as well. So that's something that's normal, but you have to understand that comes a sense of jealousy. There's jealousy in that. And you have to understand with social media, it's always the best of everything. So you're always going to show when you're happy. You're always going to show when you go to beaches and trips and you go to all these places, and they never post anything about what's really going on. So that's kind of what you have to watch out for as a parent, is any posts or anything that they say. I would suggest to definitely friend your students and your children, just to make sure if you allow them to get on social media, I would definitely suggest to follow them and always watch what they say and do. Another thing that they have to kind of go through is social media nowadays is social validation. So the better your platform is, the more friends you have, the more popular you become. If I get more likes, I'm better than you. So it's always a competition. And think about it like this. Think about yourselves at 12, 13, 14, 15. Think about you always competing on a daily basis, every hour, looking at different people's things and looking to compare your life with theirs. You have to understand people like to be liked. People like attention, and social media does a great job of getting you addicted to getting attention from other people. That's basically what it's made for. They have taught, our children, but also some parents as well. Everyone likes to be liked, and there's not a problem with it, but you have to understand everything that you do on social media stays on the internet, and it also can affect our children's future, as you can see by all the suicide rates and things like that. So a little bit of more insight to it. With social media, it's a big deal when you block someone. So I remember we're in their shoes. So if you block someone, that means the person doesn't like you anymore. So you can actually go on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever it is, and then go on that platform. And if you get blocked, it's a big deal. I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but to these kids, these teenagers, it's huge. It's also kind of throwing a jab if you don't tag someone in a picture. So tagging means you're in a picture, say it's 3 girls, and one of them doesn't tag the other one, or they might post a picture because they look good in the picture, but then their friends don't look good. And then that kind of starts the argument, that kind of starts that down spiral of how teens connect. If they don't like a photo, that's also a big deal as well, where I'm looking. You have to see that children like to be invited. People like to see things on Snapchat as well, where they go to different locations and places and they don't get invited. Then that also puts some of these kids into kind of this state of, why wasn't I invited? Am I not good enough? And also, if kids don't get a lot of likes on a picture, they'll delete it. Like I said before, it's kind of a social validation. It's just like back, if you didn't have these type of bell bottoms, then you weren't part of the cool crowd. If you didn't have a Michael Jordan jersey, it kind of gave that kind of status of where people saw you, or it gave you kind of a one up. But now all that is now social media, and that's kind of their world. That's what they're living on a daily basis. So let's talk about bullying as well. So with bullying, back in the day, bullies only had 7 hours at school to be able to see you and say mean things to you. Now they have access all the time. They can talk to you, they can DM you, they can share over and over and over again through all these social media platforms. They have channels to be jerks. They have TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, group messages. And what you have to also understand as a parent, where are your students or your family's safe places? When they get home, do they go straight to their room and they close the door and that's basically where you see them? Or are you having a conversation? How was your day? I know it's kind of one of those things where it's like kids are always like, yeah, it was a good day. It was good. But you also have to understand we have to dig a little deeper, but also put ourselves in kind of that uncomfortable zone where we have these conversations with them. Social media has become an amplifier for the worst of us. As you can see, kind of like Katie said, with the cancel culture and all the things that are going around, it's an amplifier. It's just going to get worse as well. And the thing is for your students and for your kids, this right now that we're kind of starting to see with COVID and even us on this Zoom meeting, this is old news. Here 20 years from now, when your kids are in their careers and their jobs, I mean, even today with LinkedIn and all the different apps and how you even go online to be able to find a job, that's where it's going. So for us to believe or to think like, no, you know what, my kid doesn't need this, that's not true, because when they get into a career field or they start working, they're going to have to understand and know how to use all these things. So another thing that I wanted to talk about really quickly, because we don't have that much time, but also was dating. So dating nowadays with teens, in the past, you would have to plan it. You would have to, ask the parent or ask the grandfather, grandmother, if you can take your, daughter, son, whoever it is out. Now it's all through direct messages. What they do nowadays is just kind of like, what's your handle? What's your Snap? What's your TikTok? What's your Instagram? And what they do is look through all the pictures and all the comments, all the likes, and then they react and say, hey, you're hot. And that's all they have to do. They have to say you're hot, go into your direct messages, and then the relationship stays online. What happens is that we don't know anything about it as parents. They might try to hide it. They might try to put it into another app to hide all the pictures and all the messagings and everything that they kind of send. But then they start asking and talking about jumping straight to nude photos or receiving nude photos. It's a no-win situation, because as a society, that's kind of where we're at when it comes to social media. Let's say a female sends a nude photo. It's a no-win situation because she's either a slut if she does send it, or she's a prude because she doesn't want to send it. So the sexualization wins on social media, and that's what you have to understand. You have to have these conversations when it comes to your kids, to your kids' friends. It's kind of one of those sit down conversations, even with males as well, even with the boys. They're looking at all this stuff on Instagram, so they expect a partner or somebody else to dress a certain way, to act a certain way. We have to start having these conversations, because if we don't, then that's all they're going to know. All they're going to know is everything that they scroll through and see through. So what I did is I'm going to share my presentation now. I'm just want to go over kind of the top apps, top video games, and just tips for parents, and then also resources. Let me go ahead and share this. Hope you guys can see this. All right, so keeping children safe online. These are the top apps: TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Netflix, Reddit, Omegle, Yubo, and YouTube. So those are just the top ones that I've kind of been in contact with kids and things like that and asking them what it is. But as you can see, I put all the age ratings on the side. Now, the age ratings don't mean that every kid that age should have it, or even younger, but those are just kind of the ones that they have posted on there. So with all of these apps, I want you to be very careful with them, but also understand, if you don't get it, the best thing you can do is download them yourself and find out exactly what they're watching, what they're looking at, look at their friends, see all of the influencers that they are watching and what they watch on YouTube and everything like that. Because here's the thing, they're called influencers for a reason. Okay, they make money by sharing a photo. They make money by giving a product out. The kids are digesting all of this. Okay, so that's something that you do need to pay attention to. These are the top video games: Fortnite, Call of Duty, Minecraft, League of Legends, Madden, Animal Crossing, and Grand Theft Auto. With all these games as well, you have to be careful, because if you are playing online, you don't know who the kids are playing with. So you have to give those conversations. You have to have those conversations when it comes to who their friends are online and how old they are. Anyone can make up a name. Anyone can make up a voice. Anyone can kind of change who they're talking to or talking about. So here are my tips for parents. Number one, set limits, tech-free zones, no phone after certain times. Like Katie said, she had 9 o'clock. I have 10 o'clock here, but nothing good happens after 10 o'clock. Okay, screen time shouldn't always be alone time. Be a part of it. Ask them to teach you about apps, phones, or technology. If you're afraid of it, just ask them. Ask them to help you download it. Have the conversation about it. The third one, be a good role model. If you're not on the phone taking pictures for social media, they are watching. So I've had a lot of parents kind of say, like, we've had these issues with Instagram or Snapchat, but then when I look at a parent, their social media handles, they're doing the same thing and the kids are learning from it. Parents have to also understand that when you post things, they're reading and watching and seeing all this. So if you are posting about your food, or if you're posting a picture about yourself in a beach or a different place, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that, but understand, don't get mad at a child if they're following in your footsteps. Third one, or let's see, 1, 2, 3, fourth one, texting them is not enough. If your child posts something odd or out of character, talk to them and see them. So when you talk to your kids, always pay attention to what they're posting, but also have a sit down conversation on the couch with them. Have them come down. I've seen parents also kind of text their children all the time, but they don't have conversation with them. Like Katie said, you need all those things kind of mentally, where you have that touch, you have that emotion, you have that feeling. Just like right now with this screen time, it's I enjoy doing it in person better than I do online. Let's see what's next. Not all apps are for kids, despite what the age rating says. We talked about that a little bit. The next one, it's okay for your teen to be online. Teach them responsibility and how it affects their future. Like Katie said in the video before that, she talked about kind of college admissions. She talked about, you know, trying to get a scholarship for sports, even a job, looking back at your history and everything that you post. It can't come back. Okay, next one is warn children about the importance of privacy and the dangers of predators. Next one, don't think my child would never do this or see this. This is their normal. So when it comes to children being online, this is what they're used to. So you thinking as a parent, my child will never do that, no matter how they're raised. You don't know who they're being influenced by. You don't know what friends they have online or offline. You don't know who exactly they're being kind of pushed to do something or see something or say something. Okay. Don't underestimate people. Follow your intuition. Be active and get engaged. Know your children's friends online and offline. Video games as well. So my best advice for you is, for those parents that are able to do this, when you do go, when you're at home, put on their PlayStation or put on their Xbox or whatever it is when it comes to video games, and put it on during the day. If there's somebody that messages you or wants to talk or wants to play, if you're able to, if you're a stay-at-home mom, or if you're working at home, you might be working from home, I want you to fire it up, learn how to play it, learn how to do it. That way you really hear and see what they're actually engaging in. So as of right now, we don't have that much time, so I'm going to leave. Oh, sorry, hold on just one sec. Let me just go quickly with the kind of resources for parents. That way you guys can get those. So here's all the website resources. Bark-O-Matic, that's part of Bark. They kind of see what they ask you questions and you're kind of what your family is into or what your teen is into. If you're on Facebook, go to the Parenting in the Tech World group, commonsensemedia.org, protectyoureyes.com, covenanteyes.com, and internetmatters.org. So if you would like, I'll give you a second to kind of take a picture. That way you can kind of look and see at these websites. And then the next screen will be the what to watch. So Social Media Dangers documentary, like Katie was saying in her presentation, it's on YouTube. Please watch it. Also The Social Dilemma, which is on Netflix as well. It's a great documentary. It goes deep dive into social media. And then the third one would be The Circle. It's a social media competition. It's kind of like a game show for social media, but you really can dive in and really start looking at how people act, why they act a certain way, and understand that is their normal. Thank you so much for having me. If you guys have any questions after this presentation is done, please feel free to email me. All my information is there. Jeannie, are you?
Amazing. I just have to tell you, Roy, there's so much spinning in my head, and you said one of the things that was said, and I don't know whether it was you or Katie, this social media is an amplifier for the worst of us. And I think that really is resonating with me, that we really need to become informed and aware. And I know sometimes it makes for a quiet house if everyone's in their room on their social media.
Yeah.
But what I heard you say is bring everybody back out to the couch and
Yeah.
let's reconnect and let's
and
look
that's
at each other.
and I'm with I have a 7-year-old at home, so I've done it as well. The easiest thing is to give them the iPad or tell them to go watch YouTube, and then you could kind of do the yard work and everything like that. And I'm not saying it's wrong to do that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying let's start getting the relationships back to where they were before, where it was family time and dinner time and things like that, because the time is what really matters. I was telling you this before, Jeannie, but I'll tell everyone else. I was at actually the playground and I was playing with my kids, but then there was also other kids there. But there was a mom that was sitting in her car, inside of her car with her AC on, just scrolling through social media. In my head, I was thinking like, oh man, you're missing out so much fun time with your small children, because time flies by and you'll never be able to get that time again.
I'm kind of, I was in that bell-bottom generation. That's what was a big deal for my generation. But I was also that parent who, we didn't have phones when I was raising my kids, and we watched our kids. We sat in the bleachers if they played a sport, if we went to the pool or we went anywhere, if we weren't playing with them, we were watching them. And I'll tell you what, I remember my children loved knowing we were watching. And it's very powerful. And when a child looks up to you and you're sitting in the bleachers and you're staring at your phone, I don't know. I think that would be a little bit of a sting. So what you're saying, Roy, about how important it is for us to model what we want our kids to do, that has a lot to do with what we're doing with our social media. For sure. How about you, Javon, having a middle schooler who's about to go to high school? I mean, this is...
It's a fine line. It really is. I mean, you want to be able to establish trust and give them those opportunities to grow and make good decisions, but you still have to look. I mean, there's still dangers out there that as naive and as good of a kid as they are, they still get lured into. It happened with me. She was talking with some friends on this thing called Discord. I just thought, it's like a Google meetups thing, just meeting up with some of our friends from elementary school. And it's not. I mean, it's open to anybody and you don't know who is there. And we had to have a really uncomfortable conversation. So the conversations are not always going to go well, especially when you mention that you might put some of these apps on your phone to monitor. Even if they're not doing anything bad, they still take it very, very personally.
Yeah. And like I said before, it's their world.
Mhm.
I say that to all my students. I've made my choices. I've put myself where I need to be. I've done everything I can. I can't go back. So this is your world now. This is what you're going to do. So all the choices that you make really do matter. And thankfully, I didn't have social media when I was younger, but I kind of lived in the generation where it was kind of both. So, I can disconnect when I need to. But the kids nowadays, they've never had that option. As parents, as family members and things like that, you're able to do it just because you do remember it. So let's pass that down kind of to the next generation. Because if all we're doing is passing down is just being on the phone, then later on in life, it's not going to be good for their kids.
So there's something that Javon and I always do when we do trainings for teachers, and we're gonna do it with you now. So you've been given a lot of information, and we'd like to ask everybody to write in the chat box what's one thing you're going to do differently after hearing this presentation. It could be, we're going to park those phones at 9 or 10 o'clock at night in my room, or I'm going to look into getting some kind of app to cover this, or I'm just going to sit down and say, hey, show me what you do on your phone. Let me be a part of this in some way. So if you would just throw it in the chat box, what's something that you might want to do after hearing this presentation today?
And also with Jeannie, with that as well. Sorry, I just wanted to interrupt just really quickly. For parents as well, try to be their soft spot. Like the video showed, try to be their soft spot. don't yell and go screaming like I'm just going to erase everything, like, because as parents, that's what we do. That's just the overreaction of what we always do when something bad happens. But I want you to understand, please be their soft spot. Let them know that if something bad does happen, if they see a video, if they see a show, or somebody tries to message them, have them come to you. Because the thing is with teens and students, if they don't come to you, they're going to go to someone. And that someone might not be somebody you like. It might be their friend. It might be another adult. It might be somebody else that you have no idea. They might do it online during a video game. But have them have that conversation, have them come to you.
Wow, we're getting a lot. I love that. Be their soft spot. I love that. I'm going to be keeping that. We're getting some amazing comments. Talk more to my children. I'm going to share this information with my parents as a teacher. Continue being nosy on the phone after, and be more aware of grandchildren's online presence. Learn more about and utilize the apps that monitor as they get older. And share these resources. This made me feel so much better because I have always taken my daughter's phone at bedtime, and now I know I was right. Yes, yes. And I'm blessed to have some young parents that I'm friends with, and you can guarantee that they will know about these resources tonight. Yes, please. I'm sending this recording to my son and daughter-in-law who have a 9-year-old. So I'm going to do the same thing, and that's part of our mission for everyone here today. We want you to take this information, share this information. We have to talk about it. We really do. We need to kind of pull our heads out of the sand and be that advocate for our children and for our neighbors and our community. Roy, do you have any final words to send us off today?
I know it's scary, parents. I know it really is. Just because also we're just kind of looking at the tip of the iceberg. We're not really taking a deep dive into it, but just understand, you just trying, that's more than enough. That's all we need is for you to try to understand and really put yourself in their shoes and kind of what they have to deal with, and also have them ask you for help and not ask other people.
Yes. Be that soft point. And I love, I just saw this comment that I love. Many of my rules have gotten weaker. And so as she watched this presentation, I need to tighten up and be more consistent. Phones leave room at bedtime, take YouTube off 7-year-old tablet, sit and go through apps with my kids so that they can include me more. This is great. And then finally, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this important information. We thank you for being a part of this. We really do. All of you for taking the time to come on today. That's where the power is. And Roy, thank you. Great information. Thank you for making the connection with Bark, and what an amazing presenter Kaylee was too. We appreciate all her information.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Thanks, everybody.